The Titan who ate the future. Kronos is one of the most famous villains in Greek mythology and also one of its most misunderstood figures. Because yes, he's the Titan king who swallowed his own children. That image is so shocking it tends to swallow the rest of his story along with it. But if we rewind to the beginning, Kronos doesn't start as a monster. He starts as a son, living under a tyrant. And his myth is less about random evil and more about a brutal truth the Greeks return to again and again. Power fears replacement, and fear creates the very future it tries to prevent. So today we're going to tell the full story of Kronos, how he rose, how he ruled, and how he fell. And by the end, you'll see why this Titan isn't just a horror story. He's a myth about time, inheritance, revolution, and the curse of repeating what you hate. Who Kronos is. Before Zeus ruled the skies, before Poseidon ruled the seas, before Hades ruled the dead, there were the Titans. They were older gods, cosmic forces, closer to the bones of the world than the polished marble of Olympus. Kronos, sometimes spelled Kronos, was one of these Titans. He was the son of Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. And right away, there's a common confusion around his name and what he represents, one that changes how people read his myth. Kronos in time. You've probably heard Kronos described as the god of time, or you've seen him portrayed as Father Time, old and bearded, holding an hourglass. That image usually belongs to Kronos, a different figure, more like personified time itself. Later writers and artists often blended these two names together because they sound similar, and because Kronos' story feels like a story about time, about generations, inheritance, and the passing of power. But in the core Greek myth tradition, Kronos is primarily a Titan king, not time in the abstract. He's a ruler with a throne, a family, a prophecy, and a fear. And that fear is where his story really begins. The first tyranny. To understand Kronos, you have to understand his father. Uranus, the sky, ruled first. And in many versions of the myth, Uranus isn't just strict, he's oppressive. Some of his children are shoved away, hidden, imprisoned, pushed back into Gaia, the earth, like secrets that shouldn't exist. And Gaia suffers because of it. Imagine being the living world itself, forced to contain your own children like a prison. So Gaia plots a rebellion. She creates a weapon, a sickle, sometimes called a harp, curved and sharp, a tool that can harvest or cut down a king. Then she turns to her Titan children and asks, "Who will stand against your father?" And most of them refuse. Because this isn't just disobedience. This is cosmic treason. But Kronos steps forward. Not because he's the strongest, but because he's the one willing to do what no one else will. And for a moment, Kronos looks like a liberator, a revolutionary, the one who will end a tyranny. That's the tragedy of his story. Kronos begins as the solution and becomes the next problem. The sky falls. When Uranus comes to Gaia, Kronos ambushes him. And in this violent symbolic act, he overthrows the sky itself. It's an image of one generation cutting down the next. The son replacing the father. A new order born out of blood and fear. And depending on the version you read, the consequences ripple outward. New beings emerge, curses are spoken, fate tightens its grip. Because when you seize power through violence, the world learns a lesson. If you can overthrow your father, then someone can overthrow you. And that idea, more than any weapon, will haunt Kronos for the rest of his reign. The Golden Age and the Shadow. After Uranus falls, Kronos becomes king. And here's what surprises many people. Later Greeks remembered Kronos' reign as a kind of golden age, an era of abundance, peace, a world that didn't yet groan under the complexity of human suffering. So was Kronos good? Was he a better ruler than Uranus? Maybe, at least at first. But even in a golden age, a shadow can spread. Because Kronos carries a secret truth in his chest. He is a usurper. and usurpers do not sleep easily. Then comes the prophecy, the doom sentence of myth. Kronos will be overthrown by his own child, just as he overthrew his father. And in Greek mythology, when a prophecy arrives, people don't avoid it. They sprint toward it while trying to run away. The Titan who swallowed his children. Kronos takes a queen, Rhea, a Titaness, and they begin to have children. First, Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. And each time a child is born, Kronos makes the same choice. He swallows them, not in a moment of madness, but as policy, as strategy, as a king trying to outsmart fate. Think about what that means. These aren't random victims. These are future gods. The foundations of Olympus, swallowed before they can even see the world. And Rhea has to watch her children vanish again and again into the living darkness of Kronos' body. At this point, Kronos becomes the image we remember, a ruler so afraid of losing power that he devours the future to stay king of the present. And right here, the myth opens into symbolism. Swallowing the future. In myth, eating is rarely just eating. Swallowing can symbolize control, possession, erasure. Kronos doesn't merely kill his children. He keeps them. He stores them inside himself. It's like saying, you can exist, but only as part of me, only in my shadow, only where you can't grow. And if you zoom out, this becomes a story about regimes and generations. The old power cannot imagine making room for the new, so it consumes it. But myths are cruelly honest. A future you swallow is still a future. It just waits in darkness until the moment it can return. The stone trick. Rhea reaches the breaking point. She's lost 5 children. She knows the 6th will vanish too. So when she becomes pregnant again, she decides, no more. She hides the baby, Zeus, far from Kronos' reach. And when the time comes, she wraps a stone in cloth like a newborn child. Kronos, eager and fearful, takes it and swallows it without question. A king so obsessed with the prophecy that he can't even tell the difference between a child and a rock. And Zeus grows up in secret, away from the Titan court, fed, protected, sharpened into something dangerous. Because myths love the quiet irony. The child you fear most is the child you train by trying to destroy. And when Zeus is old enough, he returns, not as a lost son, but as a challenger. The war that remade the cosmos. Zeus confronts Kronos, and in many tellings he uses cunning or divine help to make Kronos release what he swallowed. The 5 children, alive, unchanged, waiting. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, the Olympian order reborn from the belly of the old king. And now the war begins, the Titanomachy, a cosmic civil war that remakes reality. Zeus and his siblings don't win alone. They free the imprisoned forces, Cyclopes and Hundred-Handers, beings of raw power and ancient rage. And the old world's locked-up weapons become the new world's advantage. The sky fills with thunder. The earth shakes. The sea roars. This isn't just a fight for a throne. It's a battle for what the universe will become. And slowly, inevitably, the prophecy tightens like a noose. Kronos is defeated. The son replaces the father. And the cycle completes. Or seems to. A family map of the gods. Let's pause for a quick family map, because it shows how myth thinks. Uranus and Gaia produce the Titans, including Kronos and Rhea. Kronos and Rhea produce the first Olympians. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Zeus. Zeus then becomes king of the Olympians and begins a new divine order. And look at the pattern. Each generation is born under the shadow of the last. Each king fears the child. each child becomes the overthrower. This isn't just storytelling. This is Greek myth's obsession with succession, fate, and the instability of power. Where Kronos goes. So where does Kronos go after the war? In many versions, he's cast into Tartarus, the deepest prison of the underworld, locked away behind gates, guarded so he can never rise again. But mythology isn't one clean timeline. Later traditions sometimes soften the ending. Some tellings suggest Kronos is not simply punished, but relocated, even ruling over a distant blessed realm, a memory of that golden age. And that's fitting. Because Kronos isn't a simple monster. He's a warning. He is what happens when revolution becomes rule, and rule becomes fear, and fear becomes cruelty. The curse of succession. Kronos is not just the titan who ate his kids. He's the story of a son who overthrew a tyrant and then became one. A king who tried to defeat fate by committing the very acts that made fate necessary. And maybe that's why his myth survived. Because it says something uncomfortable and true. You can't protect your power by swallowing the future. You only ensure that when the future arrives, it comes back hungry. If you enjoyed this myth, hit like, subscribe, and welcome to the Temple of Tales. And tell me in the comments, do you see Kronos as a pure villain or a tragic ruler trapped in a prophecy? And which titan or Olympian should we cover next?